And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. My name is Brother Greg, aka the real gLO. If you don't know my username by now, it should be in the title. It should be somewhere on social media. I'm excited. I got the nervous jitters as I always do, which is good. And I will say this: every time I go live, I'm just excited because there's a spontaneity of making mistakes, the energy levels, all that stuff, and just being real and authentic. So I'm glad that you're here. For anybody that's on social media, thank you. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, X, Rumble. We may or may not be live on Rumble. Rumble's updating their services, and then Kick as well. So anyways, let's get right into it. Today's broadcast is brought to you by 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions. They are the premier services for training and protection. I'm reading a script, by the way. This is my friend's company. They are the premier team. For anybody that is really interested in protection for yourself or for your family or for your home, go to 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions, LLC.com. Check out the services. Whether you're someone that believes in Second Amendment or not, they offer everything from pistol training. If you're hunting, if you're in law enforcement, they offer all the training and services required to get certifications. Even if you're someone that you just want self-defense tactics, they offer that as well. Everything from parking lot self-defense to in-vehicle self-defense without weapons. My guest, David Padilla, who was the guy that actually sponsored with us with this 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions, there was his daughter made the news because someone had tried to kidnap her at a Costco parking lot in Honolulu, Hawaii. So you better believe that his training regimen is going to be pretty solid. So go to 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions, LLC.com if that interests you. If you're in Hawaii or Arizona, they offer guard car training. You can get certified in both states. If you're in a different state, message them. If you enter my promo code gLO, that's gLO, you get $25 off your training service packages, whatever they are. So before I bring up my next guest, I just want you guys to know that I met this gentleman on social media through, I believe, X is where I first seen him, and also on this it's a platform, I guess. No, it's a part of X, and it's like a podcast, but they call it Spaces. But rather than have this intimate one-on-one conversation, you're in a room with like sometimes 20, 30, 40, 100, maybe thousands of people, and everybody's talking depending how many are allowed to speak, up to I think 10 or 12. And that's where I first seen this gentleman. And so today, however, we're going to have him one-on-one an intimate conversation. His username is the Evolved Dad. He goes by the name of the Evolved Dad on socials, but his name is Jonathan. And I'm just blessed, excited. I'm honored to have him. He's a father of 5, husband. He does have a job. He's also a content creator here on social media. Also, he's a podcast host. And I'm just glad and blessed to have him here. You're going to be able to hear him speak, share his life. His name is Jonathan, the Evolved Dad. In about 44 seconds, we'll be right back. Yes, sir. Here we are. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. I'm very excited for this, and thank you for the opportunity.
Did you notice I had to turn your face around on that picture? I don't know if you noticed that. I had to turn him around because you were looking the other way. So I had to turn. Yes, I'm like, he's looking the wrong direction. So I had to figure out how to invert your photo. I gotta ask,
Okay.
is that really you or is that an AI version of you?
That's an AI version of me.
I'm
I wanted
scared
to
to.
give it like a little bit of, I want it to be my face, but be AI because of the whole evolved brand, which we can get into a little bit later.
Okay.
So that's where it stands.
You know who I thought of when I saw that was Mr. Smith. You know which Mr. Smith I'm talking about from the
You're talking about
Matrix.
yeah,
I think that's his name, Mr. Smith. That's who I thought of, Mr. Smith. I'm like,
nice,
yeah. Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes, number one, how's your family? Everybody's good.
fantastic. Yeah, thankfully. And yours?
So, they're good, man. So when I texted you, I was driving, and I told my wife, I said, "Oh my god, I swear I said 9 p.m. Eastern, but I told my wife I forgot what time zone he's in." And I remember I watched, I do my research somewhat. I watch your podcast with the dads, and I'm like, oh no. I said, oh no. I lose it. Oh no. Those I'm like, oh no. So that's why I messaged you. And so this whole
All
time
good.
zone, yeah, these time zones, I'm from Hawaii, so I get it. Like we're always behind everybody, and Hawaii, we're in our own time zone, and there's no other people but Hawaii in our time zone. So yeah. What else? Now you have a 9 to 5 ish job, but I know you said you work from home. From what I saw, is that pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of a mixed bag because I work from home and I work when I'm not home. I work a lot, so I do a lot of things. So how do you separate your time? Like when it's time to work, do your kids and your wife know, hey, this is my space, or do they still come in like bring you coffee like my daughter?
So it's a little bit of a mix. My I have a little bit of an intense job. So when I'm focused, I'm like laser focused. Sometimes I can't have any disturbances. So I'll actually lock the door to my office so no one can come in. But my little ones like to come in when they come home from school to say hi. And it's so hard. It's like you want to stop, you want to say hello, but like you're in the middle. Sometimes I'll like mute the call that I'm on or whatever, like turn away for a second. Hey, what's going on? I'm on a call. But
now,
yeah.
now, how old are your kids, if you don't mind sharing?
My oldest is 13, and I have
Okay.
11 and 8, 6, and 4.
Wow. 13, 11, 13, 11, 8, 6, and 4. That 4-year-old must run the show.
Oh, yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I know, bro. I got 4 kids, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The youngest always runs the show. But and I got 2 girls, 2 boys. You have a obviously you can't have a even, but you have predominantly boys or girls, or what do you have?
It's boy, 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 girl, boy. So 4
Oh,
boys and 1 girl.
I'm so sorry for your wife and her daughter and your daughter, man, dude. So in Hawaii, and so our home in Hawaii, we have 4 bathrooms. So
Yeah.
let me count: one, two, three. 4 bathrooms, and even with 4 bathrooms, you still run into problems. It's like somebody's always needs to use the bathroom that this one's in. It doesn't matter how many bathrooms.
Yeah. They always have it. Well, there's always a preference. It's always like, no, but I want to use that bathroom. It's like, we have bathrooms all over the house. Like, what do you go upstairs, go downstairs? There's another bathroom.
Now
So,
you're in New Jersey. Is that what I
yeah.
remember? Okay. Nice. My oldest daughter's in. She just moved to New York, so she went to college in Boston. She just graduated Boston,
Nice.
so she moved to New York. I think upstate New York, so away from the city. But man, I'm excited to have you, man. I guess first things first, and you can correct me as I go along, and then I'll just turn it over to you. But from what I remember, actually, you messaged me, if I'm not mistaken, the initial DMs, and I appreciate that. Just to be honest with you, like I appreciate when people take the time to just message me. There was no agenda. You just said, "Hey, man, I jumped in and you said some nice things. I don't want to false praise myself. I don't want to misquote myself. So, but you said some nice things, and I'm like, that's how I know that's legit when people take the time, to message you in private. You could have done it in public and get people to like, oh wow, he's a nice guy, but you did it in private. And I appreciate that. That's how you know it's legit, right? When people do it in private, they don't need the likes or the reshares. So I do appreciate that. And I think that's where this started. And I will say for those that don't know, I'm gonna pop him up real quick and then we'll give him the floor. Um, his name is the Evolved Dad on social media. He's got his own podcast. If you want to connect with him, this is his website. And if you want here, so I'll take, there you go. Theevolveddad.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is
I'll,
/connect.
/
Like,
connect to.
yeah.
And so I'll just kind of briefly go through. And then he also has his own podcast, which is on Spotify. I love Spotify. And I listen to a few and I love this. Um, can you explain? Well, you don't have to do it now, but you can as we go along. But so for those of you that want to connect with him, this is how you find him on socials. And we'll talk about how you get to all those platforms because I'm only on Spotify. So, but I'll just say this, man. I'll turn it over to him and I'll let him share from his heart. What drove you to the changes that you are today? I won't let the audience hear from me, but what changed from your initial social media entrance and then to where you are now? Because I know there are two different personas of who you were. So can you walk us through that change, or however you want to lead in and finish that story?
So the social media one's a little bit interesting. There's the evolution of who I became, who I am as a father now. But as far as the social media aspect, it's kind of funny. So I started out on crypto Twitter. I wasn't really on social media much, wasn't really didn't really interest me that much. I kept in touch with who I kept in touch with. And I started out on crypto Twitter. At some point, one of the coins crashed. I don't remember exactly what it
Mm.
was. And the circles that I was in, there was people taking their lives. There was also bullying going on. People were taking their lives. And it hit home hard. It hit home really hard. Um, it shook me, like, that people are taking their lives for this. So my initial reaction was, how can I try to inspire people to realize that there's more than just, what they're looking at right now, that, there's something more. It's not just about the money. And yeah, there may be people that are coming after you, but keep moving on with life. Like, it sucks, it hurts, but I wanted to show people that there's others that are out there for them and that there's more to life. So I started trying to pull other people in to write positive content and stuff like that. It wasn't really going anywhere, honestly. And I came across Clint Murphy's account. I'm not sure if you're
Mm.
familiar with his account.
Yeah.
Much smaller. This was like 2 years ago or something. It was a significantly smaller account. And I said, like, I really liked how his writing was and everything. What could I do to get this message out better? So he said, like, you have to focus. I asked him what did he do? What were the courses that he took? So he pointed me to a few different courses, and I started going through those courses, and it was like, okay, you got to have a focus. So there's a guy, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, AOP, Art of Purpose.
I don't think so. I may have heard it, but it doesn't ring a bell right now.
So he's the creator. He has this community, and I joined the community. We had a call. I paid for a call with him, and so my initial accounts were all just like motivation, mindset, and generic stuff like that. He's like, you're going to drown in a sea of generic accounts. You're not going to be able to make any sort of an impression on anyone. Like, you have to take something that you're going to focus on and run with that. And I ended up joining, they have a cohort as well, 30-day cohort, which was another story that was majorly intense. And through that's where the evolved that came from. And I never honestly thought that, first of all, that there was an interest of other fathers that wanted to talk about this as much as there is. And I just never thought of myself as like one to talk about it. But once you get the ideas of, you're talking to someone that's just even a step behind you or a few steps behind you and getting out there, it's been wild.
I gotta ask this question. So, a lot of people that are on a new wave of Twitter X, because I've been on Twitter since 2015. So, since Elon took over the company, there's a whole wave of new people that jumped in, and so I feel like I'm at a place where sometimes I need to, or I feel like I need to explain what I did prior to the new crop, but like I'm done explaining it. But I don't know if you knew this, but my business partner Joey, I'm not sure if you looked in any of my long history of posts and tweets, but I met Joey, who is an engineer. He was an engineer at Apple, Twitter, every tech company you can think of, and he's good. He's a genius, like literal genius. But he just, and I know Joey's going to watch this, but he always gets into that corporate structure, right? He hates corporate, and I think this is probably he hates corporate, but he's really good at what he does. And he created a program where we could engage in moderation and conversation within a live stream, like what we're doing right now. He created that, and I ended up joining up with him, and we became partners. And we had a team of 10 people, I think, are at a peak. And his background is kind of like computers and engineering.
Yeah.
And we got into crypto after that. We actually formed a cryptocurrency company. We didn't just buy it, we didn't just invest in, we actually formed a cryptocurrency company, and we promoted it here on Twitter. It was a meme coin. We did two meme coins. Long story short, we did have a liquidity pool that we had accumulated. We had a whole white paper, everything set up. We just couldn't get the investors just because the initial offering to get listed on CoinGecko, for example, was like 50,000, and we're like,
Wow.
that's a lot of money for
Yeah.
us, and so we're like, we'll play around with it a little bit more. So we promoted, and Mary, who was on it, her name is Mary Paz 77 or something, but she's here on Twitter. She was one of our marketing gurus as well, part of our team, and I remember that time, dude, we were making money. As far as the investment part of it, it was fun, and we still do. I don't think we're going to launch another project. It's just too volatile and too much regulations and things that really hurt our ego. So there's a lot of work. I'll share that with you in private, more of our company, what we
Sure.
did. But it's all public on Twitter if you really dig through it. But I agree with you. That whole cryptocurrency, the so many people were putting their life savings. They're putting all of
Yeah.
their stimulus money, all of the COVID money into crypto, and not working for their what they needed to pay for, like bread and milk and eggs and food, and it's crazy. And I feel on that. But here's the question. It took me forever to ask. Your background is IT,
Yeah.
is okay. And forgive me if this is unfair generalization, but my experience with a lot of people in IT, just in general, or computers, are not very comfortable with the front end, like what we're doing right now. Was that how you always were, or if you weren't always like that, what changed? What made you be comfortable with the front end, like how we are now?
I don't think it's an unfair generalization. I do feel that,
Yeah.
no, to be honest, like I would say like more recently, the people that are showing up in on the IT landscape are not necessarily as screen shy because they've been more exposed to a lot of other things.
It's
Whereas it
true.
used to be like you were literally like in front
In
of
a
a computer the
cave.
whole time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're in a cave.
You were like locked up. There was no lights or anything. It was just like, huddling in there and quiet. Um, I don't know. I like the conversations. I like talking with people, and it's definitely it's I wasn't always like this. That's for sure. I used to rather just curl up with a book or sit on the side or whatever. And I don't know. Just over time, just like I liked getting out more and talking to people, learning new things. You sort of like get a read on people to some extent, and learn from mistakes, who to speak to and who not to speak to.
It's funny. Growing up, for me, I grew up in the '80s, so I'm dating myself. But in the '80s, you were either a jock or athlete, or you were a nerd. There was no in between. I
Right.
went to my friend's son's graduation a few years ago at this very prestigious high school in Hawaii. And I'm not even, like, I can say this. I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, Philippines. I can say this. Like, brah, majority of the graduates out of 300, no, no, I take that back. They had more than 300. So 300 were valedictorians and I can't say it. 300. I've never been to a school that had that many valedictorians, salutatorian, whatever they call it, like all with honors. And I don't know how they,
Usually
I
like
don't,
one or two.
nah, I'll find a video. Yeah, they had so many people that had these honors. Maybe not valedictorian, but they all had like it was unbelievable. And the
Interesting.
majority of their names were Chinese last names. I kid you not. And then you get that one Hawaiian who jumps up, because they tell you what they're going to do in college. They tell you what college. Like the majority of the colleges were Ivy League. I mean, these kids are
Right.
all scholarship. They committed. And there's this one Hawaiian kid comes up and says, "Yeah, this is brother Kavika from Waimanalo. He graduated with honors. He's gonna take a break from school." And everybody cheers. He goes, "Yeah, so."
Nice.
It's like that's, but
That's awesome.
well, the funny thing is the majority of those athletes that I talked about when I was growing up in this generation at that school, a lot of those kids are they run track, they do rifle, they play sports, they have they have multiple things that they do, and they have a high GPA. It's crazy. I'm like, this generation is different,
Yeah.
or at least at that school. And I was like, wow, the culture is pretty intense. Like, wow, these kids, they play sports and they get high GPAs and they're smart. And I agree with you. Like, I think kids are more exposed today socially. Everything's on your phone. So they're not as, I'll tell you this though, Jonathan, a lot of the people that I know that are in tech, they're super funny. There's so much in their bag when it comes to comedy. I think it's their
You
confidence
have to
level.
be.
I mean, you have to be, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into fatherhood in your mission. I think in your bio I typed up your mission really is helping dads. So can you walk us through from that what we talked about that transition of being in crypto space and now is like, okay, now I want to help people after witnessing all the horrific things that happened. What happened after that transition and where are you now in that space of helping men or fathers to be more specific?
So you mean like as far as like a personal transformation
I would
or
I,
like
I would say
as far
yes,
as like
start with the personal and then we'll go into the public space. I think that's a great way to start with the personal space for sure.
so the personal started a while back. I was actually exposed to some not founders necessarily, but like owners of companies on a few different occasions where they interacted with their children, like in the middle of meetings, like they would pick up the call, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" "Oh, I'm in the middle of a meeting." And they just keep talking and just going at it and it sort of hits you, even if it's a little bit subconscious, like there's something else here. There's something else going on. And growing up, it was always like you have to work hard so that you can make a good salary so you could support your family, you could have enough money for vacations and everything else. And it's sort of like it clicked, but it didn't really change anything at that point. I would say probably the biggest turning point was during COVID
Mm.
when so my youngest son was in the hospital. My wife was with him in the hospital. He was maybe he was less than a year at that point with some sort of a respiratory issue. Thankfully, it wasn't anything serious in the end, but it was quite a scare. And so I told work, I have to take care of my kids. All everybody's home. It happens to be that our work intensified tenfold because of the stuff that we do with all the tech and we manage stuff in healthcare and all sorts of things. So my wife was there for I don't know if it was like a week, a little bit less than a week. And when our son came home, we were sitting outside in the backyard. So we had built part of the COVID stuff that we had done was we dug a pond in our backyard. It's about 8 feet by 6 feet and like 3 feet deep. We got a slack line. I built a bench with the kids for next to the pond, like a sizable bench, could hold like 3, 4 adults on it. And we did a few other things. And at some point, maybe it was a couple weeks afterwards, my wife and I were sitting on the bench. The kids were all playing, and we just looked at each other like, "This is beautiful. Like, this is what we always wanted to be." And it was just like, I think that was probably the biggest hit to me was like, it's different. Like, this is not about the money. Like, there's nothing here that we did that's so financially intense that it's like, "Oh, I'm doing great because I was able to provide my family financially with this." It was just the moment. It was just everybody laughing and enjoying, and no matter how crazy the world was at that point, but it was just like it was one of those moments where, like, it's more than feeling fulfilled. It's like you can't even say anything. You wanna just live that moment forever. And that was probably one of the most pivotal points in, becoming a father, realizing, like, there's a lot more to this than just bringing home the money.
Yeah. You know, I heard that story about the pond, right? And did you have experience before that, or you just figured it out?
Figured it out.
Really? Okay.
The best part, by the way, we bought fish through Amazon.
What the heck? Really? I didn't know you could buy
Everything
fish.
that we got from for the pond, from the liner, the filter, I think the gravel we ended up picking up locally, everything. We got everything from Amazon, including fish.
The
Supply
pump, the pump, the aerator, all that stuff, the hoses. You have one of those pumps that sits underneath the water and it pumps from the inside, or do you have it external?
No, we did internal.
Internal.
We didn't do it the fountain, like
Okay.
the waterfall thing.
Okay. I have quite a bit of experience with waterfalls and ponds. I got an early retirement from Paul Mitchell in Hawaii. That was, I think we had one pond. We measured it at, I think, 15,000 gallons. That was
Wow.
that was a big one. And then the other one, I think, was like 6,000 gallons. And then the other one was like 7,000 gallons. And how we measured it is we run the water into a bucket and we time it. And then we time the entire length it takes to fill up the pond. And that's kind of how we estimated the gallons.
Wow.
So that one pond took half the day to fill up. So
I can
yeah,
imagine. Ours is
yeah.
only, I think ours is, I don't remember how many thousands. I think it's, I don't know.
I'll
Can't remember
tag
what.
you in that pond. That I used to live stream that. I used to feed the fish every morning, and I used to share that with my
That's
followers and
awesome.
stuff. It was one of those fun things. So your kids know how to do a pond now.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
kids know how to do things that take time.
yeah. I
We
don't
had
think
them digging for like, I think it was like a week, give or take. They just had a blast. They were just like, I was working and they were outside. My wife was in and out because with the baby, and they were just digging. They were going at it. There was rocks we had to take out. This is a New Jersey backyard. It's not like we have like this whole huge expanse. It wasn't like such a large area. We had roots to cut. We had rocks to pull out, and yeah, they just had a blast.
your kids, do they have electronics, cell phones, iPads, all those things?
Limited.
Limited.
Each one of
I
my kids has at least one device. So
Yeah,
we have we actually use something from Google called Family Link.
that's what we have.
It's awesome.
I'm on the road, brother. I am literally in another state, and I'm checking, and I call my wife and I said, "Why did they download this game?" And I love it. So my kids every day, and I'll be honest with you, when I first heard about it, I asked my wife, I'm like, what is like why? I didn't agree with it because I didn't understand it. because
Right.
I came home one day. I was on a trip. I came home and my kids were they were sad. Dad save us, and so my wife, she took away my boy. Actually, she took away all of their social. Actually, my kids aren't on social media. But she took away all their video games away for 3 months. 3 months. This is the and it wasn't cruel and unusual.
Yeah.
It, and it wasn't a set 3 months. They actually made it 3 months through their behavior. So when I found out she took it away, I was like, oh, "Why did you do it?" And she, well, because they keep abusing their time. And so, when you go over time, even though the thing cuts off, they'll go to another device or they'll go to a TV,
Right.
watch
That's
YouTube.
the hardest part.
So technically, even though we shut them off on all of their computers, they can still go on the TV and watch YouTube, which
Right.
technically they're not on their devices, but screen time is screen time in our house. And so the family link is awesome because you can control. So anybody that has kids and you want to know what your kids are actually doing on their devices, download Family Link by Google.
But you know what
For
else you could do with it? You could set time limits, you could set
Yeah,
restrictions. So, like, most of my kids, it's like it's more
Sorry, I
restrictive.
don't understand.
But you could do like a straight up you could do a black you could basically block everything and only allow specific sites.
yeah,
And there's so much kids content now that you're really not limiting them that much.
yeah.
So,
There's channels on YouTube that are marketing to kids. When I watch it, I'm like, no,
no,
because they and I to me and I I'm a pastor, so for me it's different. Like how I look at it, then I'm not elevating myself in any way, but I understand for me, like for my family, I know what they're trying to do to my kids. That's how I feel. It's
right.
not just a kids show because when I see cartoons that are kids channels and they're showing these kids how to kill people, like launching them off cliffs, and it's like a physics engine. And so they teach these kids, hey, just throw the human off the cliff, throw the cow, whatever, and it's funny. It looks funny, but it shows him falling off the cliff and the body parts are falling off, and it's a cartoon. And the
Yeah.
kids are laughing at it like it's okay. And I'm watching this. It's horrific. There's blood dripping everywhere. There's blood spurting out of and I'm thinking, this is a cartoon that they're marketing to kids on YouTube. And it's essentially showing kids how to throw things off of cliffs or they get a chainsaw and they chop off body parts, and it's funny. They're literally desensitizing our kids. So that's a good example of, man, limiting websites, what they can see, what they can watch, and time. My kids only get an hour, 2 hours max, I think, per day for computer time because my kids are homeschool. So they do computer work, schoolwork. They're not allowed to play video games except on weekends. So they don't get any Game Boy privileges, no video games on a computer or iPad. Monday through Friday, it's all schoolwork. We make exceptions depending, of course, but ideally, that's how my wife and I we run it. There's no video games throughout the week. You can't play video games on a weeknight. Just because you don't go to a brick and mortar school, that doesn't mean that you don't have school nights. We have school nights, but our school days are different than the average student. So from that chapter of COVID, what happened after that and led you to where we are? Any in between stories from that moment of being home, being with your family, and feeling how good that feels, right? It feels good to be with your kids, right? But did that wear off at all? Did you like, man, I gotta go to work now, or did that feeling stay for the most part?
So it was sort of on and off. There's a few podcasts that I've been listening to for quite some time. There's Rob Dial, Mindset Mentor, who I've been listening to for a long time. Um, Trying to remember who else I was listening to at that point. There's a few others. So I was very into really understanding emotions, understanding myself, and just constantly figuring out ways to improve. So I was a lot of that links into the same ideas, which is really the underlying concept of my entire account is we're fathers And it's just taking the self-improvement and becoming better people so we can lead better and give our children better examples to give them the tools for life. So it wasn't much of a change, but from around that point in time, that's when I started really getting deep into these ideas. And I started reading more about it and I started reading more books and just across the board, not just on parenting. Like, for example, I read the David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me, and I loved it. I loved I'm not going to be a David Goggins. I'm never going to get to that point simply because that's not where my focus is in life. I don't care to do that. That's not what I'm aspiring to do. But you can grow a lot from that. You can gain a lot of inspiration from seeing what is possible and what does it take, like, going through these traumas and everything, and having that strength of mind to say that that's not me. I'm going to continue growing. And especially nowadays, it's a very important thing to carry along, honestly. So yeah, that was really it was just moving forward from there, and it's just been a constant growth ever since.
Did you have a dad growing up?
Yes.
And was it pretty healthy for the most part for you?
It was pretty healthy for the most. Yeah, I
You
wouldn't
know,
say that it was like I've changed a lot of things of how I'm a father, and I've had to unlearn a lot because I wanna show up differently, but it was a different generation. It was a different generation, it was a different coming from a different place. So, yeah,
was he a father to you, or was he a dad to you?
as I say father or dad.
I never call my dad father. I feel like I'd be British. Father, are you coming to the house? No, my dad's. I've always called him dad. When I was a boy, I call him daddy, and of course now that I'm 48, and I call him dad. There's a word, and I'm not preaching it by any means, but like when we have our leadership meetings, and let's say we do, we'll have certain meetings with our leadership teams in ministry, and we'll talk about the different names of God and Father.
Mhm.
But there's a very special word when you say Abba Father. When in that language Abba Father, that literally means Daddy God. That's like you're my daddy. And I think you said it. I forget which podcast, or even in your conversations. Like, there's a big difference between a biological and someone that's like your daddy. Like, I don't say daddy anymore, but he is my daddy. It's like he's my
Right.
dad. You know, did you have that growing up? Did you have that dad or daddy figure? Or did you look at your dad in that way, or?
I'm not sure that it was quite I think it was more of a father. There was a daddy aspect to it, like, where he would teach us how to do certain things and, like, play ball with us and stuff to some extent, but not quite. Like, it didn't have it was like it was missing sort of like the presence aspect, I guess.
Hmm.
It wasn't the daddy way that I would put it.
I took my kids to when I texted you today. I took my kids to Barnes and Noble. I was gonna live stream it and we're gonna show the world, hey, we're looking at organic books, we're looking at paper, and I'm thinking, no, I'm gonna keep it just organic. I'm gonna make sure my kids have their dad and not a father. And I agree with you. Like, um, God forbid, Jonathan, that you and I raise our kids, even though my kids call me daddy all the time. But God forbid that we get to a place where we don't invest in our kids in the way that they need to be invested. And my dad, I'm very fortunate, very blessed that I had a dad. But now that I'm a father and I got 4 kids, my oldest just graduated college. I do see that, not that I'm doing it better than my dad, because nobody could ever be a better my I have the best dad in the world, period. But I'm gonna be the best dad to my kids, period.
Right.
And I think, as we're changing and as we're growing, as we're evolving, even our mindsets. For me, I have a biblical perspective. That's my foundation in growing. But as we're growing as fathers, at the I hate using this term. Everybody says at the end of the day. At the beginning of the day, when we start raising our children, is are we gonna be that daddy, that dad to them? And I love what you shared about maybe I'm pulling it out of the bag too early, but I kind of know what it is. But can you explain to our viewers like the perfect day?
Love it. So the perfect day is how I do the perfect day. You sit down and you think about, what is my perfect day? What is the day that I want to live? If I could choose one day to relive for the rest of my life, what's that perfect day? From the morning to the night. What time are you getting up? What are you doing in the morning? And I'll give you some examples. So for me, I want to be getting up, give or take 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to be working out, some meditation, prayer, all before my family wakes up, before my wife gets up, before my kids get up. I want to be fully ready for them after doing all that stuff. So if that means getting up at 4:30, so be it. And then waking my kids up, being in a good mood, being ready for the day, um, giving them breakfast, maybe making them breakfast, seeing them off to school, spending time with my wife, and just going through the day. That's what the perfect day exercise is. Going through that day. What does it look like for you? Every last bit. And keeping in mind that the perfect day is something that evolves. It's something that changes as you grow, right? As we get better at things in life, we're on a new level. There's a new viewpoint that we have. So today, I may want to get up at 5. In 2 months, I may be wanting to get up at 4. Now, that on the flip side, that means going to sleep earlier. So that's changing around your perfect day. And once you have the concept down, I always say you have to write it down on paper. I actually have a thing that something I offer to work through with people. You write it all down. And when you write it down, you start breaking it down. How can I start working towards this piece? I can't, right now I'm getting up, not myself, but for a case. Right now I'm getting up at 8 o'clock. How do I work towards getting up at 5? If I start getting up at 5 o'clock, I'm guaranteed to fail because that's 3 hours already. 3 days in, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be like, I can't do this anymore. Boom, gone. But taking those little steps. So I can't get up at 5 yet. I'm going to get up at 8 o'clock without snoozing my alarm. And I'm going to do that for a week, then 2 weeks, and then a month. And then I'm going to up it to 7:30. I can't have lunch with my wife right now because she works 50 miles that way and I work 50 miles that way. But you know what? We're going to have a 5-minute call every day at lunch because that's what we want to do. We want to spend time with each other. Maybe it's going to be a video call. Maybe I can't do a video call. Maybe it's just going to be a regular call on the phone, not WhatsApp. Please, people, stop the thing and everything. Call, pick up the phone, say hi, like that. So, working towards those little things. And it's so amazing. I've yet to find someone that is not already on their way to their perfect day. They just don't realize it because they've never written it down. But now there's a clarity as to where they're going. So it's not like, I don't know what's going to happen with life. I don't know what I'm going to do. How is this going to turn out? There's no more about that because I know exactly where I'm going. And you taking it, put it on the wall and have it by your bed, have it wherever you're going to see it. So every day you're working towards it. And the most important thing on that perfect day is writing out your why. Why am I doing this? because when you have a why, you never need the motivation. When you really understand what your why is, and I'm not saying because I just want to take it easy. No. When you start digging into it and you keep asking yourself why, I think it's 5 whys gets you to like the core of what you're looking for. And you understand what that why is, you don't need motivation. That's every day when you're going to look at it before you go to sleep and after you get up, you're going to keep working towards that because your why is right there. It's clear as day. You have your steps written out for you. You got everything there for you. And when it's not serving you anymore, you feel like you need a pivot, go ahead and pivot. That's great. But you have a direction to go in.
There's a great quote from a mentor of ours. His name is Tommy Lee, not the drummer Tommy Lee. This Tommy Lee is from Hawaii, and we did a couple of businesses together with him back in 2005. His greatest quote that I wrote down was, "If your why is strong enough, the how becomes easy." And it's so paramount when I read. I wrote down on so many different journals. My wife, she was making fun of me today because I I have this fetish for journals. She's like, we were at Barnes and Noble. She's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, I don't." I ended up not buying it, but I have this thing for Japanese journals. Something about the way the Japanese, the paper. There's this river in Japan where these trees grow next to this river. I'm not making this up, by the way. This is a true story. Uh, the journals are just something about. Anyways, I was buying these journals. And she's like, "What are you buying? You have so many." And so she was right. I found my old journal. I saw that quote. It says, "If your why is strong enough, the how becomes easy." And it's so important for us to have that why. If we don't have that why, there is no how. There is no reason. And you said earlier, if I wake up at 5, I'm destined to fail. I think that's what you said, bro. I will tell you this much: if I wake up at 5 or 4 in the morning, I'm definitely going to fail because I will go back to bed at about 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? I'm like, what the heck? And we're talking about alarm clock and snoozing. This is where we've progressed. You told people, hey, don't use WhatsApp. Get on your organic. It's sad that we're calling these phones organic, but get on your organic phone and make a phone call.
Right.
But this is where we've come, ladies and gentlemen. My alarm goes off this morning because I set it because we had a meeting. So we have meetings every Monday with our we have a team of investors, 10 of us, and so it's better because we're here in Hawaii. We had to wake up even earlier, but here we can sleep in a little bit. But I set my alarm at 9, 8 a.m., whatever it was. I literally said, I'm not going to do it now, but I said, "Hey, GOOGLE, snooze the alarm." And of course, Google does it.
Right.
And I'm thinking, this is where we've come when we can talk to our alarm clock. We don't have to muscle up and like get out of bed and like push the button. We can literally say, "Hey, blank, 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 snooze my alarm." But there have been days where I say, you know what? I'm not going to have an alarm today because my why is strong enough. My why is strong enough. No alarms today. And you know what the scary thing was, Jonathan? That one day I did that, I seen sunlight peeking through the window and I was freaking out. I literally jumped out of bed because I felt like I lost my whole day because I thought it was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. So the why has to
That's
be strong
awesome.
enough, you know?
Yeah.
Here's another question I want to ask you in regards to that. We're talking about parenting our kids, and I think our kids. I forget who told me this, but our kids don't know. They don't understand finances or money, or at least most kids don't. They don't know what not enough means, or they don't know what a work schedule is. They just know like if they need that, they want that. And you said it earlier about the CEOs, and I've had experience with those where we're in the middle of a meeting and they're answering the phone, and I'm like, "What the heck are you doing?" But there's something powerful when we are available to our kids, no matter what we're doing. And it's so ironic that bothered me for a minute, not realizing that, from my platform, being on a platform as a pastor, and I'm preaching about how God is always ready and available for us, and yet as a father, I've been known to push my kids away. I'm in a call. I'm in this. Just wait. And so I take that to heart what you said, because that is a behavior I believe as fathers that is very important to take note of, if it's obviously feasible. Now, obviously, if you're in the middle of something very, very, very important, maybe you got to make a judgment call. But I think the idea of being available to our children, I think that's very important. So, but the concept you shared earlier, I meant to ask you, do you what you just shared earlier, in terms of the concepts of the perfect day, do you teach that? Do you have a way for people to connect with you where you can walk them through that?
Yeah. So
You
I
do?
actually
Okay.
have an offer that's on that website
Okay.
that people can book that out.
Nice. How I gotta ask, since we talked about transition from Money X to what is his other X? Since we're talking about Money X, what is his new X that you got? Money X? Is there a different name for it? Because there's so many things now
You
in
mean
Twitter.
now, like, for dads?
Yeah. What do you call that? What are we gonna call it?
I actually had a thing for a little while where I was promoting dads. Not necessarily promoting. I guess you could sort of call it promoting, but I was asking dads. I called it X dads,
X dads,
like as in like X-Men type of thing. And it would be, what was the question?
the
I think if
branding.
you
I
could
guess the brand.
tell any dad what if there's one thing you could tell any dad, what would it be? And yeah, that was actually a lot of fun.
I
Got some
think
good stuff in
X
there.
dads almost sounds provocative, like almost like you're ex husband, but now you're an ex dad. Like you're out
I
of the
know.
picture.
I know.
I'm
It was
thinking,
a little bit tough. So I what I did is I actually I took I took my AI generated image PFP. I threw it into Midjourney and I asked it to make me into Professor X from X-Men. And so I used that as like sort of like to play away from the ex dad thing. Like this whole X thing is just like it's it's throwing things off. It was like right at that point, I think right after they had changed it over to X and everyone was playing on that X this, X that, X the other
yeah.
thing. That was an interesting time to go through when
Let,
Elon
let
bought
let's
Twitter.
land here. Let's land there for a second on this whole X platform. Um, were you on Twitter before it became X, like
Yeah.
or before Elon's buyout? Okay. I feel like people that are, and I got to be careful how I word this. I feel like people that are on X now. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I'm like, where were you for the past 15 years? I feel like people that are on X, they're like, oh my God, this is a new platform. This is the new. And I'm thinking, where were you? We've had live streaming since 2010.
Right.
Where were you? Like, did you not have social media before X? And I think maybe some of them didn't. Um, this whole idea of cryptocurrency on X, it's been around for a while. On Twitter, it's been around for
Yeah.
a while. So I always wonder, where were these people? And I'm not poking fun at them. It's a legitimate question. The other one is, I'm literally fighting the trend to do anything AI. I think part of it is that now I use it for writing, but not for art. But um, you know, my dad's a photographer. I did photography. My wife, she does photography. I do drone videos and drone photography as well. I haven't posted any recent ones, but I'm all about that organic stuff. And so now Mid Journey is, what is Mid Journey? Is that Microsoft? Who is that from?
No,
Is
I think they're their own company.
okay. Is it free, or is it a paid service?
So I use it as a paid service
Okay.
um, for multiple different things. But yeah, I have to agree with you. It's not the same. But what I do find that's pretty amazing about using something like Midjourney is you could bring out a lot more emotions in a picture at a much faster pace. So what I mean by that is like where you would maybe walk around a city and try to capture that perfect picture of somebody, you can now throw that into Midjourney and get in like all these different types of images. So it's not a replacement in any which way, shape, or form. I happen to love natural photography. I think it's beautiful. And I love being out in nature with all this stuff and not having technology. Even though I work in technology, I hate technology. But like I say, everything can be a tool or a weapon. So I use it as best as I can. But for example, when I put out some of my posts and I could put together a few images and I know that it's going to pull at somebody's heartstrings and they're going to feel that more, that's what it's about. And not to do it like in a negative way, but knowing that I have the ability to inspire someone through putting out a few pictures, it's a no-brainer. It's you can't find those perfect pictures to be able to cultivate to your image unless you have a vast library of human photography, like where you're taking pictures of people over time.
I don't. I There was a post I responded to where someone had asked about what do you think of my profile picture, and it's an AI generated image, and I know that this person's a photographer. He's a great photographer, by the way. I can't remember his username, but that he wears glasses like me. Great photographer. He's on Instagram as well. And I said nothing can replace the megapixels in an organic photo, especially if it's film.
100%.
There's not they haven't even figured out a cost effective way to even match the pixels in a photograph, because I know it's possible, but it's just not feasible right now. Um, but I see that the trend where the AI art is very trendy. Maybe that's why I fight it. I don't know. But I also feel for the artists as well. For they're going to revolt against all these AI bots taking all their jobs, and then Elon's going to infuse all these AI technologies into his army of Optimus robots, right? I'm sure you're familiar with Optimus, and then he's going to infuse everybody with the
Brain implants.
Neuralink, and then if you don't like that, he'll get you with the automated Tesla vehicles. You know, if you don't like that, the final straw is what?
Yeah.
All the satellites he's got in space. He's going to crash it down on your house and blow you up. So he's got the world. He's got everybody, and it all starts with your artwork. You
Yeah.
know, so be careful, family. I know I'm pulling on some love language for Jonathan. He's in IT, but let's talk about IT, and then we'll go to another subject and about motivating dads. I don't want to stray too far, but I want to get to know you. So, and I'm sure our family on all of our socials want to get to know you. But in the area of IT, my cousin, growing up, my cousin was always into pornography, and this is back in the 90s, and so he would always find ways to hack computers, and so LimeWire, and I should let me rephrase that because I want to get in trouble. That's not what he was about. Let me just rewind that. The terminology he used was porn was his currency, and not just his. A lot of IT guys that were back in the early days of IT, when they didn't have money, they would trade porn for, for services. So he told me, "Hey man, can you spot me this? Yeah, what you got?" And so back then they had LimeWire, and what else? Kazaa. Have you ever heard of Kazaa? And I'm showing my age. So way before cloud services, we had these programs that you could download to your computer, which were file transfers.
Peer to peer.
Yeah, peer to peer, and you just had to trust that the person you were getting it from was legitimate, not trying to, you know, ruin your computer. But
Mhm.
if you look, anybody that doesn't know LimeWire, if you look up LimeWire, LimeWire was known for giving your computer cancer. For anybody that wants to know the reference, if you downloaded any files from LimeWire, you pretty much gave your computer cancer or the blue screen of death. So, but anyways, man, I don't know why I went so far at that. But he built his teenage years in high school, his career, by hacking people's computers. Then, of course, he got into trouble, and he ended up um, doing good things. just helping people, reboot or whatever, clean their hard drives and reset whatever he had to do. And now he runs a whole IT department at this hotel chain in Las Vegas, and he gets paid so good. And of course, it's not about the money, but it's funny how he started from hacking people's computers and using porn as money or currency because he didn't have a job or money, and now he's running an entire IT department of I think a hotel chain in Las Vegas. He was running the IT department of a bank in Hawaii, and now it's his own company. So that's how he provides for. He's a great man, by the way. He doesn't look at porn anymore. He's my cousin. I love him. We amazing dad, amazing father. Like for you in IT, how did you get started in IT? And are you going to continue doing IT if your success in social media, let's say tomorrow it just explodes and you get a ton of clients? Is IT something that you love, you're going to do for the rest of your life? Or is it just something that's a great way to provide for your family?
So it's something that I do enjoy, but I enjoy it more from the perspective that it's a challenge. I like challenges. I like to figure out new ways to do things more efficiently and just do things better. I like to find solutions. So I enjoy the tinkering aspect. I enjoy understanding the root of what's the issue, what's going on. If the evolved dad took off tomorrow, unrealistically, in any which way, shape, or form, I would walk away from IT. And not because I don't like IT enough, but because the fulfillment that I get from doing the evolved ad content is like nothing that I've ever experienced in anything that I've done for other people or just as a job. There's nothing in IT that can give me that sort of satisfaction ever, that the two are even a trade off. I mean, the fact is, when I get those DMs from those dads where they're saying, I'm also an evolved dad, I'm also on this journey, or your content inspired me to now look at being a dad differently. Your content inspired me to now show up better for my kids. Forget about the fact that these dads are now going to feel fulfilled. Hopefully, they're going to carry that longer and longer. But their families, they're going to show up better for their wife. They're going to show up better for their kids. You're talking about generational stuff here. You're talking about through one post, you can change an entire generation. And to know that you have that ability, now taking it a step further. Now, let's say I'm working through a perfect day with someone. That's setting them up for a trajectory that they never had, where they're going to be consistently improving on what they have now. They're going to be showing their wife what they're doing. They're going to be showing their kid. And it's just going to create a much stronger family bond. There's literally nothing like it. I wouldn't trade it up for anything, honestly. I mean, that's honestly why I'm still doing it at all. It's a grind. It's not it's for anyone that thinks that it's easy to keep showing up every single day and, putting out the content and coming up, with the ideas and interacting and doing all this stuff with a 9 to 5 that's longer than a 9 to 5 and with a family and, but that all that makes it worth it. There's it's an unbelievable feeling.
I'll make 2 points. One, you said that 9 to 5. Anybody that knows anything about technology, IT is never 9 to 5. I'm sorry. Right? Am I right?
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
You're gonna get a 2 a.m. phone call or text or DM. I need help now. This is not working. Get over here or log in. What do you need? I'll give you my credentials. You can log in remotely. Fix it. Fix it now. So there is no 9 to 5 in IT, right? I know that just from some experience and then family. Um, the other thing you mentioned a word that is not really talked about a lot on Twitter, X, social media in general. Very few, in my opinion, and that is generational. we don't have enough men. And I'm not taking anything away from the ladies. We're both married, so we can cover that in a second. But there's not enough men that are thinking generationally. I took a course I would say 10 years ago. It was like I don't know what to call it. It was like a fatherhood course. I don't know what it was, but there was like 30 of us, 30 men. We decided to take like they market on social media now like it's a cool thing. Like you go through this course and you're hardcore, you're climbing through mountains, and it
I
was
don't do
something
that,
like
by the way.
yeah, I don't do that either. But I did
I
take
don't
the
do it.
course. One of my swords I got was from that course, and
Nice.
they basically walked you through a series of courses. And one of the things I learned was this generation is so plagued with living their life for themselves. And once they've exhausted all of this extreme experiences, then I'll settle down and I'll raise a family. Now, that's noble when you think about raising a family, but by the time you're ready to do that, you may have lived
Yeah.
your life in such a way that maybe you're at a different age or demographic. I think the average age of men starting a family now is in their 30s. And there's nothing wrong in that, but it does change the dynamic generationally. We talk about the word generation. And what I mean by that is if you have kids at a certain age, there's a time coming when you approach that age when things start creaking and your body's not as limber, and you start approaching an age where when your kids are old enough to have their families, the question I would ask this generation, are you going to be in a position to be that grandparent to offer not just insight and wisdom, but to be very active in your grandkids' life? And that's where I said there's a generation that's plagued with this idea that I'm going to live my life right now. I don't care about anything else. I want to experience everything. I'm going to develop my character. I'm going to make myself big and strong and wealthy. And then when I'm ready, when I'm at that level, then I'll start a family. At face value, it sounds noble, but
Yeah.
I think you're cutting yourself short because now you're starting your family at a much later time. And I'm not promoting anybody to start a family. I don't even know the word frivolously or foolishly. But the truth is, from our standpoint, my family, like my wife and I are supposed to have kids, Jonathan. Can you imagine if I say, you know what, let us get everything in order, and then when we're ready, we'll try to have kids. We are biologically not supposed to have kids, period. And you never know when your time's up, or so we figured out early on, let's just, let's start a family, let's do it. And by all means, like, we're not teaching our generation to be foolish about it, but of course, and I think we'll cover that. But you said that we're generational generations. I think that's very powerful. So for your kids, what can you share with us in terms of that generational thinking we're talking about? Do you have any insight or advice or things that you're doing that you can attribute to generational thinking or
Sure.
concepts for your kids?
So I'm not into the whole I haven't I haven't bought into the whole dynasty thing.
Yeah.
I'm not at that point. I am in a group with a bunch of guys that are very into it. Um, for me, the main thing is that I can give my kids the tools to achieve anything in life in a way where they're going to embody it. And then by default or verbally or through their actions, they're going to be able to give it to their kids. So, one of the things, for example, I love bringing this up because I just love these things. I do charts with my kids. I do charts for myself. I have charts for my workouts. I have charts for taking walks with my wife. I have charts for when I start something new. And I'm very into charts. Very, very into charts. One of the things that I put out on my timeline was a chart. Why? Because a chart is something that you're going to see. You hang it up in that spot, and it's something that you got to make that check at the end of the day. If you didn't do it, it's blank or
Now,
there's an X.
is this a paper chart?
Paper.
Nice. Okay.
I hate technology.
And you're
I
in
use it
IT.
for I use yes, I use it for everything and I hate it. as much as I can keep my kids away from technology, there is a balance though. I want my kid like I do chat GPT stuff with my kids. We'll get into that later. Um, but I'm very into pen and paper. So when I have like I don't like that my kids write some of their reports on their computer, but that's just a reality and just got to move along with it. But I'm a huge proponent for charts. And I'll teach my kids if you want to learn, earn, not learn. If you want to earn something, then what you have to do is X, Y, and Z. So one of the things that I did recently with a bunch of with almost all my kids, they each wanted to earn something, and I wasn't so excited about it. But I said, okay, you want to earn it? You have to do any exercise. You choose whatever it is, 10 sets of it every single day for a month. Every single day. If you miss, done. I did something with my oldest son who's 13. I gave him, he wanted something that was more expensive than what I wanted to buy. And I was going back and forth about it. I really didn't want to get it. I didn't feel there was any value in it. I said, you know what? This is not going to be a thing where I'm going to split the difference with you. Because usually, like, I'll tell my kids, like, if this is so important to you, you split the cost with me. If I feel that there's some value in it, I'll split the value of it, but you have to pay the rest. You have to show me that there's value for you. I'm not just going to spend money because you want it. Because, yeah, I want a lot of things. I'm not just going to go out and buy everything. We'll be poor in 2 days.
Yeah.
So for him, it was significantly more expensive. And I told him, I said, if you, for 30, I think it was 30 days straight, every day, you write down 3 things of what you're thankful for. 3 things. I don't care if it's the same 3 things every day. That's up to you. But it's the exercise and it's the practice and it's going through these things. I'm willing to do it. I'll even front it. But you have to be honest with me and come back to me and tell me that, you did the 30 days. He came to me a few times in tears because he had missed a day and he was almost done. And he said, can I just do twice? I said, no, we had a deal 30 days. You have to do 30 days consecutively. I said, I appreciate your honesty.
Did you
That means
feel
a lot
bad?
to me. I felt horrible,
Yeah, of
but I
course you
know that
did.
it's important for him to learn because now he's going to understand 30 days is 30 days. It's not like, oh, I cried and now I can get, no, you can't get out of it. That's not the real world. That's not how it works. So you do that for 30 days and it's yours. So getting these little lessons and doing it in a positive way where they're earning something or they get something from it, where it's not more computer time and it's not a new electronic device and it's not things like that. Those are the types of things that I do with my kids. And one of the things that I do with my kids that was actually a very big game changer for me was apologizing.
Mm.
And I'm not like one of these like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." No. If I'm wrong, I own it. And I want you to see that I'm going to own it. So, like my kids do something wrong and I lose it. And it happens. That's just the reality of life. And there have been times where I've sat down by our dinner table and said, "I want to apologize to everyone. I totally lost it. That's on me. I should not have done it. There was nothing that you guys did wrong, and that's my fault. And I hope everyone can forgive me for that." But with my kids, like if they do something wrong and I lose it on them, I try to make it a point. I do my best to remember within a reasonable amount of time to sit down and say, the fact that I yelled at you, that's on me. I was totally wrong. There's nothing that you did that caused me to yell at you. That was my fault. I should not have lost control like that. But that doesn't take away from what you did was wrong. And
Yep.
realize that. That you did is wrong. I did is wrong. Two totally separate things. But I don't want you to feel that what you did caused me to yell. That's not the case.
You know, it's funny. I'm going to be very transparent with whoever's watching, but um, just the other day, 2 days ago. So my youngest son, I don't know the terminology, but he has these sensory um, things. My wife knows the terms, and uh,
Fidget toys?
something. Yeah, his love language is obviously physical touch and all that, but he's always been one. He needs to have, just that. Um, and there's other things that trigger him to say things like every time my youngest daughter sneezes, he can be anywhere on the property. If he hears her sneeze, he'll literally go yeah, yeah, like he'll mimic her. It's a weird trigger that he's got. So one of the things he's had trouble with lately was he watched it on YouTube. I think it was like he says this word doo doo splatter. So it sounds gross, and it is gross. I'm like, what the heck is he saying? So it's become his kind of like his comfort word to call his brother. Come on, Koa, doo-doo splatters. That was his like. He didn't mean for it to be derogatory, but it started off as derogatory. He kept saying it, kept saying it. I finally the other day I got so fed up with it, and I called him into the room, and I was so upset because he kept calling it. The other siblings accept it because they know that he has this. It's not a condition, but it's like a trigger for him to say certain things.
Right.
Um, it's kind of similar to those that are on a spectrum, similar to those kind of things. And so I corrected him, and I was already upset. And this is to prove him. I don't care what job title you've got. I don't care anybody who. I'm not highly elevated than anybody just because my wife and we pastor a church or we have other ministry obligations. I literally told my son that day. I said, "Stop saying that word. Enough already. Do you even know what doo doo splatter? How derogatory it sounds?" And I felt like he wasn't getting it. So I ended up swearing, not at him, but I said, it's the same word as shit. And I said it really loud. Would you like it if I said, shit, piece of s? And I said it loud. I did it on purpose. I deliberately said it that way to say it strong because that's my part of my parenting philosophy is the shock and awe. And then after, I corrected him and I said, no more. You're done saying this word. Stop saying doo doo splatter. They don't like it. And so, long story short, I think not even like an hour later, I'm like, that sense of conviction came over. I repented. I said, man, God, I'm so sorry for using strong language. I don't, we don't condone that, obviously. And so I grabbed my son. I said, you know what? First of all, I'm sorry for the language that I used. That doesn't give you permission to use the same language. I was wrong. I said, but what you said is still wrong. And you're going to stop saying it. And I said, am I clear? And he said, yes, Dad. Okay. And as he was walking out, I hugged him and I said, that doesn't give you the right to swear. I just want to be clear because that's my shortcoming. So I think this whole parenting, the generational aspect of it, I think is important that we're willing to have those conversations with the kids. I mentioned my last podcast, I think, where I've had to wake up my kids in the middle of the night because of something that I said to them, and I had to make it right with them because God forbid that, I didn't make it right and maybe I pass away in the middle of the night. Would that be the last message that they got from Dad? So, I always try to make things right before they, you know, before we all go to sleep, me or my wife. So here's my question I meant to ask you. Between you and your wife, who is the softie when it comes to raising your kids? Who's the one who gives in the most?
Good question. I probably give it more.
Yeah.
I probably give it more. Um, at the same time, I could be a lot tougher just because I would guess probably like because of stress of everything, realistically. Um, yeah, I feel like my wife has a better grip on things overall, like as far as like child raising. We both have our differences as far as like obviously being brought up from different parents, having different experiences. But yeah, I'm probably more of the more of the they get away with more stuff with me. Well, when it comes to like getting things and getting like treats and prizes and stuff, especially like when we're out shopping, my wife just like rolls her eyes when we come back.
Yeah. It's funny because my kids work. Um,
Yeah.
my oldest daughter, even though she graduated college, even before when she was in college, she had her own. I don't even know what she had. She did eyelashes or something. They've always, and that came from, I think, obviously my parents, my family, but like all my kids work in some capacity. There is no free money in my house. We can buy it. There's like like you said in the beginning, it's not about the money.
Right.
It's like, but we also teach our kids it is about the money too, because like you don't just automatically think, oh yeah, I'll get money whenever I ask for it. No,
Right.
I posted a video on my feed last night. I think it was last night. I was thinking about you. I'm like, oh man, I gotta think. So I was thinking about my kids, and I'm like, oh, I found this video. So I posted a video of my son scrubbing our deck of our house in Honolulu. He's just scrubbing the
Yeah.
deck, and I'm like, our kids work, and but the thing, however, though, is we used to say this a lot, like money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think? Money grows on trees? That's something my parents, my grandparents, whatever they said. But our kids don't have a concept of money. Like, like now we made a decision. They may not have a concept of money, but they should have a concept of business. That's how my wife and I teach them. Like, not necessarily it's about all the money, but you should have that choice. Like, if I want something, I'm gonna go and work for it. Like how when I asked you, did you feel bad when your when your child didn't hit the goals? And I'm like, so like, every time we go shopping, the first thing I think about is when I remember, I'll say, "Did you guys bring your money?"
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, they forgot.
They forgot.
So yeah, they forgot. And so I gave my daughter cash today. She wanted to buy some stuff, so I said, "Oh, you know what? I owe you money because I owe her. She does my hair. She does trimming. So whenever I go live, I gave her a job. So in my intro videos, if you look on the end credits, those are my kids. My son is my program director, manager. He's a producer, whatever. My daughter does hair and makeup. She's a hair and makeup artist. Not makeup, but I give a title. But they work, and it's like there are no freebies. Like, did you do the trash today? Did you clean out? We have this barn, which I'm very like taking forever to clean it out. But we have this barn. Like, did you guys take it all the trash from the barn? Did you cut the grass? Did you do all these things? We got to teach them, like, don't be afraid to work. And I think
Right.
just as dads, as we're teaching men to be better fathers, part of it is understanding if we're not working ourselves, how can we expect to teach our kids to have that mindset? And so you said let's talk about our wives. Are we good on that? Talking about our wives? Are you good? Okay. So in your household, when it comes to parenting, the discipline portion, how do you guys agree on discipline in your household?
I think we're pretty much on the same page. Um, we've discussed it over time. There was never any like serious like sit down discussion. Um, and sometimes it's in the moment. It's not the greatest, but sometimes like it's in the moment, like what's happening. Um, I think the biggest thing that we've changed around together is the after conversation of what happened. What did you do wrong? Why did you do it? Let's understand so that for the future, we can hopefully make a better choice. That I would say probably is the biggest thing that we've changed together is having that vision. But overall discipline, I guess probably for the most part, I mean, it was mostly my wife that was around just because of my hours, my work hours. I used to travel a lot for work. So yeah,
So are you pretty much stay at home now, remote worker for the most part?
yeah. I've been working at home for almost 6 years.
Wow. My wife, when it comes to parenting, my dad, when we got married, my dad actually married us. And before we got married, I remember my dad said, this is actually before we got married. Um, but my dad told us, when he says, when you correct your children, he says, make sure, if he ever, um, like, I was spanked as a child. Like, I was naughty as all get out. I didn't get dirty lickings, as we say in Hawaii. I didn't get dirty lickings, or my wife did, and I'll share that in just a second. But I personally believe in that portion of the correction and the discipline. For me, I do, and just the reason why. One, I never spank my kids out of anger. Two, I believe that if I'm going to hug my kids and rub their back and kiss them on the cheek or on the forehead, on the head, that's a very loving form of just just loving on them. But the other portion is, there are times when discipline with a physical touch, for me and the way my wife and I raise them, it's required, and it's never done out of anger, and it's never done out of intent to hurt or to maim or whatever, you know. But I grew up with that. But my dad said something very important, and he says, never discipline your child or spank your child because they made a mistake. They're going to make mistakes. He says, but the minute that the child is defiant, that is definitely a cause for consideration of discipline. Excuse me. And I was very defiant as a kid. I did some crazy, some crazy defiant stuff, you know. Um, my wife, however, she grew up, and this is public, so I'm not, putting my wife on blast, but she grew up in a very abusive home, um, from both dad. Uh, Dad was very physically abusive. He used to take, um, from what she told me, one time he was, drunk. He had a wooden 2x4. He would hit her with it, and so she grew up with that. Um, and there's going to be a day coming when my wife is we're gonna have a podcast. We'll talk about it. But she's not at that place where she wants to emotionally go there yet. At least on blast. But so we had two different ways of being raised and growing up. But I will tell you this, Jonathan, that the two areas that my wife and I fought over the most will be discipline of our kids and over finances. And so those are the two areas that, as a husband, as a father, I had to figure out very quickly. Well, I say quickly, I've been with my wife for 25 years. So they really figured out quickly, but had to figure out a way that we can work these things out. And so for us, one of the things is that we try our best not to argue in front of our kids over discipline or finances, because we don't want our kids to see mom and dad disagreeing and them misinterpreting, thinking that it's their fault, you know.
That's very
So
important.
yeah. Are there any tips for dads or even parents out there that you would offer in regards to discipline or finances within your home, as a father, as a husband?
Sure. So, first of all, a very important point that you brought up, you can't discipline out of anger. You cannot discipline out of anger. It's just it's never going to end well. And you're not thinking straight. You need to be able to calm down, take a breath, figure out what's going on, and over time you're able to bounce back a lot quicker once you realize that that's really the focus of what you got to get at. As far as finances go, you got to learn finances yourself. And once you learn finances yourself, you can properly teach your kids finances. So that's something that I dove into a few years back, read up on a few different read a few different core books on finances, went through, I wouldn't call it a course necessarily, but almost like a system on deep diving into my own finances. And now I teach my kids about finances as much as possible, obviously within their age range, whatever I can teach them. So that could be as far as like stocks or income, excuse me, um, payments for things, whatever it is, just trying to give them those ideas because when it comes down to, like you said, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. We don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow for us. So
Right.
it's like you have to live for the moment, but plan for the future. So taking all these concepts that we learn and giving them over to our children, that's really the most important thing. And yeah, we make mistakes. So doing the best that we can at all times. Obviously, we're not always going to be able to show up at our best, but keep trying to do better and having that goal in mind and improving on that. That goes for discipline, that goes for finance. We all make mistakes. And if anybody tells you that they didn't make a mistake, they're lying. We're all human. Either that or maybe they're one of Musk's robots. I don't know.
They're the Optimus Prime for sure.
So realistically, like, don't beat yourself up over it. That's probably the biggest thing. Don't beat yourself up over it. We make mistakes. It hurts. There's no question about it. When you make a mistake that you've been working so hard at not doing and you screw up and, what do I do now? You got to keep moving on. You got to pick up the pieces and keep going after it. And there's I don't know if I think it's a Japanese saying. I'm probably going to butcher this pretty badly. I don't remember how to say it, but it's basically fall down 7 times, get up 8. I actually have it on my wall. So I have these 2 wall clings here, and I have other wall clings around my office, and that's one of them. Because no matter how many times you get knocked down, you gotta get back up, and that probably is one of the biggest lessons that you can teach your child, and that goes for discipline. So when your child messes up, exactly like you were saying, when your kid messes up on something, makes a mistake or fails, get back up. Encourage them. Encourage them to continue on. Now, obviously, if a child is doing something that's, maybe harmful or they're speaking back to you in a way that they shouldn't be, or whatever it may be that you deem is a problem, that probably requires some discipline. But like when my kids come home from school with a bad test grade, my first question is if they studied. Did you put in that time up front? You did? Did you really? You really studied? You did? Okay. If you're telling me that you did, then I believe you that you did. You're telling me that you did. That's your word. Okay, let's look it over. Let's go over and let's understand what is wrong here. Do you know what's wrong? And sometimes they have no idea whether that's their fault because they didn't study something as well, or maybe they didn't understand it, or maybe the teacher didn't teach it in a way that they understood it. Whatever the situation is, understand the mistake and good. Now you know what's going on. You did a good job. You did the best that you could. Now let's pick up the pieces and let's keep going. But don't get stuck on that. Like if my kid comes home with a 60 or a 50, okay, let's look over it. Let's see what happened. They got a 50, they got a 30. Okay, let's look over. Let's understand the situation and let's build towards the future. What's it going to help if I just belt out at them? You idiot, what did you do? Why would you do this? You're going to fail. You're a moron. No.
Wait, is 60 or 50 bad? I don't know today's grading system. Is that bad?
Yeah.
It is. Is it out of 100 or?
60, yeah, out of 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, our man, if I went to school today, if I would fail miserably. I don't even understand this educational system today, but like
Educational system is a mess. It's a different conversation.
it is for sure. And so all your kids are in, are they like in a public system, private system?
Like in between.
Let me see.
Yeah.
I think that whole idea of that next generation of teaching our kids, and we, so I went to public school as a kid, and I went to private in my high school years. I went to all private school,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you, it's the same thing. Like public school kids, private, they're all the same. The only difference is the private school kids have more money to be stupid, so nothing changed. I mean, yeah, they have better generational wealth, whatever, but it's still the same.
Mhm.
The private schools I went to, I remember as a kid, man, these kids were bringing guns and grenades to school just for fun. Like we thought it was fun. Let's go blow up something after school. That was this is private schools, right? Shooting guns, and it's like back then it was different, right? A different era. But today, oh my gosh, we took my kids out of school. My oldest daughter, she was in a private school at first from elementary. Then she wanted to go to public to be with her other friends. So that's how we based our decision. Okay, well, we'll try public school, and that was the worst decision we ever made, I think. So her sophomore year in high school, we brought her back to the house, and we started homeschooling, and that was the best decision for us that we made. And it was hard because you can't homeschool your kids and have both parents working. There's no way.
Right.
You'll be bad parents. So my wife chose to be a stay-at-home mom, and it was really hard in the beginning because of the loss of the secondary income.
Right.
But now that we look back, that was the best decision we ever made, because there was a time, Jonathan, where I would come home from work, and by the time I went to bed, I'm like, I had 30 minutes to spend with my kids. Literally 30 real minutes to invest in them, to teach them, to love on them, because they come home, or if they have sports, or if they have homework, they have chores, they got to take a shower, they want to play video games or whatever they wanted to do for their own time because they want to detox from the whole day. We eat dinner. If we're lucky, we'll all eat dinner at the table together. And then by the time all that's done, dad has 30 minutes to invest with his kids. If I have the energy, because I just had a full day of work.
Right.
That's the vicious cycle, what I see as a father today in corporate America, in regular America, right? Where you only have a limited amount of time to invest in your kids. And so I haven't had experience of my kids being in a where they're not home, where they're out in educational system. But how do you find the time to invest in your kids with your work, with their schedules, you being a husband and also being a father? How do you allocate time? Do you have an actual? I know you already said charts. Do you even have charts or schedules for that as well?
So I used to be more on top of it initially when I had more. It was more of something new that I was working towards. Now, my general mantra, I would say, is being present in the moment. So obviously, not quite perfect with that. Still working on that, but putting the phone away and just spending time. And obviously, like you said, like there's a minimal amount of time. So sometimes I'm on my phone taking care of paying bills or emails or whatever it is because life keeps going on. And there are certain things that you just have to balance to the point where, like, I don't even call it balance. I don't like the whole work life balance thing because then people are like, oh, it's work life. No, it's not really work life balance. It's priorities.
Yeah.
What at that moment is something that needs your attention? Because when it comes down to it, you're not balancing the what you could do with your kids with work or with paying bills. At this current time, your decision is that it's the most important to pay the bills, or it's more important to take a work call, or more important to spend time with your kids. So it's really you're not really balancing, you're making a decision in the moment. You're creating, like, what's my priority right now? And I think some people get caught up in the fact saying, like, oh, but it's always your kids. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, we still have a life. Let's be real about it. And just when I do have time with my kids, just, you know, talking to them, having something that's interactive. So, like, when my kids get home from school, I'm not usually finished with work. I can finish work at 5:30, I can finish work at 7:30, I can finish work at 8. Depends on what's going on. If there was an emergency, an escalation, whatever it may be, I may be down later. Sometimes I miss putting my youngest kids to sleep, and the 3 younger ones are sleeping by the time I get downstairs. It's life. I'm not gonna say, "Oh, shoot, I gotta wake them up because I didn't get my 20 minutes in with them."
Yeah.
No, you gotta move on sometimes. Like, you just gotta realize that you gotta keep working on getting better and just keep moving forward. So, when I come downstairs and they are downstairs, "How was your day?" You know, "This one has something to say about this one about that." Sometimes they're just quiet about it, or they're in the middle of doing something, and I'm not gonna come down and just, like, burst their bubble. I'll be like walk by and say, "Hey, what's going on?" If they answer me, they answer me. If they don't, they don't. Like, that's just part of life. Keep going with the flow. But to give them that undivided attention and to just, like, in that moment, talk to them, interact with them, put the phone away just for a few minutes.
You know what's
Like,
tough? Well, you say put the phones away. My wife every day for a while. I have two phones that I use heavy. Like so I my Samsung I'm an Android guy, but for my Samsung that's my daily driver. That's everything from family. Um so we have our business that are just like our investor teams. We have 10 people. That's the phone that I use for them, any communications. And then I have my iPhone, which I use for anything social, online content creation, anything that, um, and I use it for every other business ventures that we have. So I literally have two phones in my pocket everywhere I go. And I
same
know
here.
my wife is on to me. You know, she's like, she may see one phone over here, but I have the other phone in my pocket. So it's like, it's so hard because there's so many commitments, and I agree with you. It's not about balancing. There is no. I agree. If you're trying to balance something, at some point, one of them is going to fall off the scale,
Right,
and it's
exactly.
going to, then you're going to be imbalanced. And
You
there's
can't always
a
pick it up in the
yeah,
same like, sometimes it just shatters.
yeah. So there is no. I agree with you. There is no balancing out. There's no. You can't balance that. There's no way you can balance it is if you give both of them the equal amount of weight, and that's not possible. That's no way.
True.
That's so. Yeah, I agree. There is no balancing act. One of the things I share with, I forget who I shared. One of our we had leadership meetings, and so just something that God put in my heart about numerical order, right? Priority list. I used to put like God first, wife second, work third. No, kids third, business, uh, whatever other things I would have, and they would all be in numerical order. Well, then I felt convicted about that too because it's like, wait, so if I love mom before my kids, how do my kids feel about that? If I do my job, my 9 to 5, or my other businesses that we trying to do after that, doesn't mean they're not as important at this time. And one of the things that I was really blessed to come up, it wasn't me. I picked it up from somebody, but it was a big circle. And in this circle is my priority circle. There has to be a singular point in this circle that is the most important thing in my life. And it can't be me. It can't be my wife. And it can't be my kids. It can't be. So for me, this circle that we drew, and I taught our leaders this, is that the center of the circle for us is God has to be the center of this entire universe of my life. And the stronger that my relationship is with Him, everything else in my circle of influence, whether it's been given to me or I worked for it, it all has to gravitate towards this singular priority point. And the stronger that my wife and I's relationship is, it's a direct correlation to the closer we are to the center. Same thing with my kids, our business, our we have a tour business in Atlanta. Anything that we do has to be all centered around, because there are going to be times when I make mistakes. There's going to be times when I fail my wife. Like, what is she going to like now fall out of a different priority list? I'm going to put her down to number 3. No, she's always going to be. We're all going to be centered around this point, and I think this whole idea of trying to balance priorities, there's no way to do that. And I think for us as dads, like for you, moving forward, have you set any priorities for maybe this quarter or the first half of this year? Are there any new priorities for you that you're going to set that you can share with everybody in the social space?
So, sort of like a refocus and trying to see what is it that's really going to drive things forward as far as like the social media aspect, because I want to do so much stuff, but I only have a limited amount of time. So it's sort of like I have to refocus my efforts. Uh, Personally, it's always like really doubling down on the moment in the moment and just being more cognizant of what's going on. And I think you mentioned earlier about taking note of how you feel about certain things, which I think is extremely important, like noticing how you're acting in that current moment. How is that triggering you in some sort of a way and realizing your reaction. So that's a constant focus for me. What else is there? I'm hoping to start the video aspect of my podcast with guests. So to really bring more to the people, more dads, like different views, open up the conversation a little bit more. And yeah,
Do you think that's going to be your focus for a while, working with dads exclusively, or do you think there's other interests, things that you enjoy doing? Like, what do you enjoy doing outside of coaching men to be better dads? Is there anything that you enjoy?
I love reading. I love learning new things, optimizing systems, um, DIY stuff, building things, traveling, all sorts of things. I like getting around, finding new things, and yeah, just taking my family to experience new things, like the DIY stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it takes so much longer, but doing those projects with your kids, it's like you just have to plan for it up front. It's a totally different experience, and like the memories from it are just wild. And my daughter, who was, I guess maybe like 3 years old at the point, was helping us sand down the wood for the bench, and the smile on her face was just like made everything worth it. I was outside in like ridiculously hot weather, but nothing compares to that.
So, is it Thursday? I think Thursday. Oh no, Wednesday. I have a guest. I can't. Oh my god, I forgot her name, but she is the founder of Two Girls. No, Two Girls Garage. She had her own TV show. But I'll be interviewing her on Wednesday, and she's a. I think they call it homesteader. I think that's what they call them. She's got
Yeah,
her own big property. She does all these. I've posted a few videos of her or reposted. Um, but she does a lot of projects like that where just she's where I got one of the ideas for building a chicken coop. So my wife and I talked about building a chicken coop or getting chickens, but I'm going to ask her this Wednesday when I interview her or talk with her. Hey, share some ideas that we can learn from and pick up, because my daughter, since we've been in Oregon, so part of the travel I do is back and forth Hawaii and Oregon. Not so much this year, because I just it was just too hard. Like last year, I traveled 6 months out of I wasn't home 6 months out of the year. It was very hard. Zoom and telephone calls are good, but there's nothing like organic. And so this year, I'm definitely going to slow down. We do travel quite a bit in about a month or so, but other than that, we're going to take all of our kids, so it's going to be everybody. But my old since we made her my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, she makes homemade butter, she makes homemade bread, she started
wow,
composting, she cooks Korean food, she learns all
so
because
cool.
they're homeschool, right? So we don't
Right,
put a limit on what if you want to learn, go learn. Like, I'm not going
that's
to stop
awesome.
you. What else does she all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. My boys learn how to make pencils, homemade pencils. Like, who does that? You know,
That's
um,
awesome. Like you feel good about that stuff.
well, I didn't even teach him. He just figured it out. So the other day he goes,
So
Dad, look
cool.
at this. He got this wooden stick. I'm like, what is that? A pencil. I said, what? So he burned the tip of the twig,
Yeah,
sharpened it, and made a pencil. I was like, hey, that's pretty smart, Cole.
that's
You're a
awesome.
genius. Yeah, so that whole organic thing is important, with our kids. I definitely believe in that. I want to ask you one question about the podcasting. and then maybe we can kind of navigate our plane for a landing. But as far as a podcasting, man, I would say if you have no other constraints, I said just do it. We need there's a big space for us with video. For you do a great audio podcast, by the way.
I
Um,
appreciate that. Thank you.
I think we need more. I don't know if you heard of Mike Rowe. He had the TV show Dirtiest Jobs, where
I'll check it out.
he would go around the nation and just he would find all the worst jobs that nobody wants to take, and he would do it. And of course, he would film it. Um, he's an avid component of putting America back to work in whatever capacity, whether you're in IT, whether you're in technology, whether you're in plumbing, trades, whatever. But he has a podcast very similar to yours. He has a short podcast, and he also has a long form podcast. So I
I
think
was thinking about that. I'm not sure how I want to do that. But yeah, finish your thought. I'll
no,
continue that.
I think that'd be a good idea. That your short form is good for people that don't have time to sift through. Me personally, when I listen to podcasts, I'm usually doing something else, so that's how I can absorb it. And sometimes I just sit through it. Um, but yeah, I think you should just do it. You've got a good setup. You've got a great backdrop. You've got a great voice. I think obviously just the engagement factor, obviously, and for me, I'll be honest, I'm just cheating so I can learn something. That's for me. And like I told you in the beginning, I, I'm not stupid because I don't confess it over myself, but I am someone that wants to learn. I'm not the smartest person out there, but I think the greatest advice my dad gave was if you feel that you're not in the place that you want to be, he says, look at your circle of influence. If it's not where you think it should be, then elevate your circle of influence. That's everything from leadership. Uh, I'm not sure if you ever heard this tip. I'll share this with you. I have a board of directors for me, for my personal. I have my own personal board of directors. We have our business, our side business that we do. That's different. But for me, I have my personal board of directors. And what that means is I have a group of men that I trust with the dirty parts of me. Like they know who I am. They also know the good part of me. That's why they're part of my board of directors. I can call them, I can text them at any time, and I know that they'll respond. If I'm going through marriage issues, I'm going through maybe there's some heavy things in my life. I gotta talk to somebody, or if I need advice, I can run something through them and get their honest opinion on it. And I think that's one of the best things I've ever came across. I can't remember who told me to do that, but he said, "Great, you need to get yourself a board of directors for your life." And of course, there's pastors. Not all of them are pastors. I think I have 3 pastors on my. I have 7 total, and the rest are either business owners that became good friends. One of them is a law enforcement officer, and so they're all people that are my circle of influence in that area. And that's something I would encourage any man if you can find a group of people that will elevate you, but also sharpen you. Right, like iron sharpens iron. So I encourage you in your podcast, man. I'm excited to see what's going to come about through that. I think I think the world needs more men to step up and actually be generational, extremely generational. I agree with that. And if you need a guest, let me know. I'll be more than willing to be a guest on your
For
show.
sure. That'd be awesome.
Let's do some light questions. In terms of the IT space, I don't know why that intrigues me so much. But do you do coding by any chance?
I dabble in coding,
Okay,
but I don't really do much of it.
okay. I'm kind of ninja recruiting, but yeah.
Oh.
But so what I'm gonna do is when we land the plane, when we end this, I want to make sure that we leave the door open for you to come back, and we'll get some focused topics. And now on X or on Twitter. So anybody that's listening, how I met Jonathan or the Evolved Dad, aka Jonathan, how I met him was through Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. So if you're wondering what that is, it's basically like a podcast of kind of like what we're doing, but it's not an intimate conversation with 2 people. It's usually at least 5 to 6, maybe up to 12, 13. I can't remember what the max is. and they were all
I
discussing a
have like
topic.
100. Are you saying how many on stage?
Yeah, on stage, right? I think 12,
And stage
15
is like
total.
12. Yeah, something like that.
So those are great if you want to absorb and learn it. And I'm personally not a huge fan when it gets too big of a room, only because I don't like big parties personally. If you come to my house and we have a party, I'm like, dude, you guys got to go home. You guys are going to be here forever. And it's true, right? Spaces will last for 5 hours if you're not careful. And
5
so,
hours. They've had like spaces for like 12 and 18 hours.
and I get it. Like,
I don't get it. Like,
I know how they do it. Uh, and let's be honest, there's only two ways that that's possible. Either
yeah,
they're literally at home with nothing to do, no obligations or income requirements. They're just sitting there with a phone, or they're doing other things.
right.
There's no other explanation. So I'm not a fan of it, but I do appreciate how, I mean, it gave us an opportunity to meet. Um,
Mhm.
so I want to leave the door open for us to do another, obviously podcast, but also to do a spaces together where we can just maybe we drop some dad bombs on people. You know, like, hey, I'm not the expert, but talk to Jonathan. He is, and then we'll give you guys some nuggets. And if you want more, go to his website, theevolvedad.com/connect, and get more information. So I want to leave the door open for that. So before we get into a rapid fire, is there anything that I missed? Anything that we should cover? Anything pressing?
Nothing pressing. There's a million topics, so we can't cover them all.
I will tell people this. If you enjoyed watching, do me a favor, make sure you follow Jonathan. His user handle is tagged on the X profile. We are live on, I think my Rumble didn't go through, but if you're on Kick or on Twitch, make sure you repost if possible. If you're worried about your timeline being spammed with a bunch of stuff, just repost it. When we're done, you can unrepost it so you can remove it from the timeline. I'm very grateful to have Jonathan here. I would I look forward to the day of doing something organic. Um, I think we've done a total of 6 organic meetups. One of my passions, Jonathan, is doing conferences and doing in person gatherings. Um, Most of them we've done are free, but if it's like a workshop, something, I mean, we're gonna make money. I ain't gonna lie. It's not about the money, but if people don't invest in something, they may not value it 100%. You know what I mean? So
I
even
love
if
that.
it,
That's so important.
I mean, if even if it's just 20, $50, you know, pay for the venue, right? Um, I don't think anything for free ever has lasting results. That's just my opinion. So, but
You want
I'm
to make
very
it count more? Something that I did recently with a bunch of guys. So, I've been in a group of guys doing 100 push-ups a day that I actually met on Twitter, X, and I took it local, and I got some guys locally to do it as well. And it went a little bit here and there. It ended up just falling off. It came to a point where I don't know what it was, but I was like, we got to kick this back into high gear. I don't know if it was like maybe after the holiday season or something, where I was like, people are starting to put on a little bit of weight and they're not as active, whatever. Let's kick this up a notch. I think that's what it was. And thank you, Tala.
thank you, Tala. Appreciate you.
Um, so I offered them something. I told them, I said, I don't remember what the number was, but I said, if you guys do whatever push-ups it is, minimum of 10 a day for a month, I will give X amount per person to your charity of choice. One guy totally fell out of
Crushed it.
it
Oh,
because because of work things, and he just couldn't keep up with it. One guy pulled through. He's like, and he told me afterwards, he's like that he's like, I got to do this. He's like, you put on that pressure, even though it wasn't necessarily like this large amount, but it was like, it's a pressure. It's like they're counting on me. Like I have the ability now to give them money. Now I'm going to be lazy.
yeah.
The other guy, he missed here and there, so he thought that maybe he didn't get all the days. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to choose anything, whatever." He felt bad like doing something. It's like it's fine either way. Like, don't worry about it. But sometimes you just got to stick it to people to like give them like that end of the goal incentive where it's like something bigger than you, and it's almost like having a why. It is a why in some senses. So yeah, that's my
Well, I tell you what, if I do a push up challenge and I win, bro, forget the charity. Put it in my bank account, brother. Put it straight into my bank. Forget forget the charity. I'm a charity. Give it to my charity. If you guys want to connect with Jonathan, make sure Tala did a great job, and we appreciate you, Tala. Thank you so much. She's always been one of my foundational. She's not even she's been one of my foundational co-creators in social media. And I met her organically in LA when we did our product launch. When we did our company product launch in LA, I met her in, yeah, LA. Um, yeah, so thank you so much, Tala. I don't know what that smile or laugh is for. But if you guys want to connect with Jonathan, this is his website. It is theevolvedad.com. This is his connect portion. So he's got a newsletter. If you don't like newsletters, you don't have to do it, but I just want to give you his website. But also, if you want to listen to his really sexy voice with that sexy picture, that's the guy. But look at that epic photo, bro. I'm telling you. But that's his podcast on Spotify. Stay tuned because most likely in the very near future, you're going to be able to hear his sexy voice and also get to see him in person organically. Like, well, this is not organic, but so, man, I'm very grateful. And this is one of many. And even though you're on the East Coast, keep your cold weather. Don't send it this way.
come on, send us some warm weather, please.
Yeah,
We could use it.
California's got the what do they call that flooding? There's some word. They all these fancy words for it now.
I don't want
So
that flooding. I'll
yeah,
keep the cold instead.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it is.
You do have a slight accent. Are you born and raised New Jersey, East Coast?
Yeah.
Okay. Give us one New Jersey greeting that you own that nobody can ever duplicate, or let's that we know that you're from New Jersey. Give us something.
I would need somebody else to tell me what that is.
I
I
don't
wouldn't
even.
even know.
I'll tell you mine. So one dead giveaway that I'm from Hawaii is if I get excited with people that are from Hawaii, the first word that comes out of my mouth is bra. Like, whoa, bra. Yeah, that's a dead giveaway. All right, here we go. Rapid fire. And then number one, why I can't read my own words. I know what it is, but why did you do this podcast?
This podcast right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
because I was excited to have more of a conversation with you after meeting you on Spaces. I thought that it would be an unbelievable opportunity. You gave me the you extended the offer, but I was like, can't turn this down. This is like this would be fantastic. I'd love jumping on calls with people. Um, I actually overloaded myself with it a few months back, where I was doing like 2, 3 calls a week, and they would some of them would turn into like an hour and a half. I love meeting new people, learning from people. I don't know everything either, and just building a network of people. It's just you don't have this. I've had calls with people from India, from Japan, from Australia, all over the world. So it's like take advantage, especially like with good people like yourself.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. That I take that gold nugget and it's going in my pocket. Question number two, money or time?
Definitely time.
Question number three, money not an issue. Where are you taking your family tomorrow?
Nowhere.
Matt,
Although after tomorrow, we probably will go places. But if I had the time to do anything with no worries about money, we're gonna sit down, have breakfast as a family. We're gonna have some time together playing some games, and just being a family, not being distracted by anything else, just having a wholesome, good, fun time together. We'll worry about the travel afterwards.
Mine would be all of my kids, even my oldest daughter and her husband, were all in the tide pools in Waimanalo, Hawaii, and just looking for whatever we can find in the tide pools. That would be a great family moment. Money not an issue, time not an issue. Question number 4, Mac or PC?
I'm an IT guy. What do you think?
PC.
Of course.
Mac sucks. No, but I'm using
No,
no, yes, I'm kidding.
because like you can't PC, you can play around with things. You can change all these different things. Mac is very locked down. It's great. Like when you need to get stuff done, if you're not necessarily so computer literate or like maybe you need higher end graphics or things like that, then it's like a no-brainer. Like I won't dump on Mac, but I'm just not a fan because I like playing with things and I like having more options and doing all sorts of things. So PC it is.
I prefer Mac when it comes to things being easy and where I don't have to configure things. Like I'm a firm
I'm the
believer
exact
in
opposite.
so I'm not when it comes to like this atmosphere, I don't want to have to try to figure that. I just want it. I mean, I do figure out some things, but like
Mhm.
I've used OBS in the past on a PC and I love it because it's customized. I can figure out whatever I want.
Right.
But when it's not working right, oh my god! You talk about
Yeah.
latency issue, audio feedback, squares not fitting with it, and people's perfect example. And I'm not dumping on him, but look at Doctor Heath's last podcast with me, and he was squeezing all these videos and all doing that, and that's a good example of I don't want to deal with. And that's not a PC. I think he was on a Mac, but still, it's a good
Uh-oh.
example. Yeah, yeah. Okay, next question. Wait, before we go to the next question, so are you an Android phone user or iPhone? Android?
Android. Yeah. I used to have an iPhone. I actually got rid of it one of the earlier OSs when they
Yeah.
started getting buggy. There was no turning back. I mean, like all the stuff that you could do on Android and just
My
yeah,
Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra has a much better screen. The touchscreen is much more responsive and it's not finicky. And it's so much a better phone. And I don't have the newest iPhone, but I have the 14 Pro Max, which is a great phone. But it's so quirky and it's just bulky and heavy and it's not
yeah,
accurate. It's weird. Like it's not accurate.
interesting.
Yeah. Um and I've been using iPhones for a while. So I use both. But like I said earlier in the podcast, like my daily driver is my Android. I love Android because I can customize it how I want it. It's got a
You
much
know it.
it's a much better experience. But if I don't want any bugs, I go to my iPhone because Android has bugs generally speaking from the Play Store if you download
Right.
certain apps and stuff. And of course, Twitter does not like Android. Like if
No,
anybody that's on Android right now, you can't comment. You can't comment. You can't tap the screen. So number 5 is a silly question, but do you believe in an Apple Vision Pro? I think it's called. Do you believe in it?
do I believe in the Apple Vision Pro?
Yeah.
Not for my kids.
Yeah. Okay.
If that gives you any bit of an answer, I don't. The more that people cover themselves up from reality, I think the worse we are off as a society.
Did you see that video I posted? I shared it from someone else, but of I think it was Wally. Remember that movie Wally? You ever seen?
You're talking about the guy walking across the street with the Apple Pro on his face?
No. So the video I posted was Wally is that robot in the
Yeah.
future,
Mhm.
and he was in that ship. I think it was a ship, and all these obese people were sitting on their loungers, and they all had VR headsets in front of them. And these two guys were right next to each other, talking to each other, but they weren't looking at each other. They were looking at each other through the devices in front of them. And I was poking fun at it, but that's closer than we think. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
And you're in IT, which is pretty cool. This is an X question. Number 6. Where do you see X in 2024?
So with the Elon Musk factor, nobody knows. I think that's like the hardest thing to predict. I will say that as I continue on with X, that I'm finding more and more people that are committed to growing a stronger community on there, and they're real people. And with Spaces, it's a totally different community. It's a totally different world. I mean, it's something that I don't know any other platform really that offers the same community building aspect that we have on X. So from that aspect, like we ebb and flow through these different fads, I guess, like where maybe like platitudes or people selling certain things or trying to do different things. I see significant growth, honestly. And I'm hoping that we're going to see more of a well built out community platform. That's what I'm hoping for. Where do I see it going? Elon Musk. No idea.
I think you hit it right on the money because he can literally flip the switch at any given moment on any
Yeah.
product or feature. I am glad that he was embarrassed last year. So I don't know if you saw that when he did the live stream, and he was so embarrassed on how poor the video quality was.
Yeah.
But this is how good he is. He said, just out of the blue, he started laughing. 8-bit Elon. And that hashtag went so viral. It's unbelievable. So of course everybody's making memes, selling T-shirts called 8-bit Elon because he was so pixelated. It was he was laughing, but I know he
Oh
was
my
embarrassed
gosh.
that he would
Right.
spend 40 billion on an app that the live video was so poor. It was from like 1995.
But you know what
So
his thing is? You know what he keeps saying? I didn't spend 40 billion to buy Twitter. I spent 40 billion to have free speech.
so here's my conspiracy theory, and I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but I think
Go for it, man.
with Spaces, if that's true, that there's that many conversations, and I believe it, but if that's true, that many hours a day are being consumed or created on just on Spaces alone, I don't believe that that's just for community building because all that data is going somewhere. And the next question I would
Sure.
say, where is it going and why? I think we all know if you put dots together, connect the dots, you know it's going to go to Grok. It's going to go to machine learning, obviously.
Hmm.
It's going to go to who knows what else. I think just having all that data, it's a gold mine. If I bought Twitter, that's a gold mine. But
Hmm.
you also got a well-oiled machine of a bunch of users that when you're ready to drop a new service or product, you just drop it in the pipeline, and everybody's, oh wow, this is new. That's why I said earlier in the podcast, like everybody's, oh wow, we have live video. No, we've had it, but because you've got this amazing ecosystem of people on conversations and they've been so glued to it, you drop a new product or service, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, they're dropping X payments. This is the first time I've ever heard of digital payments. Oh my God, this is brand new. No, it's been around. But I do believe that whole spaces is great because they've got everybody captured on their phone for hours upon hours a day. So I agree with that. Okay, I got to move forward. Number 7, steak or chicken.
Take.
Number 8, Cybertruck or Hummer EV.
Oof. I would probably say Cybertruck. I think I would be very much disappointed, but yeah, I would go Cybertruck.
I would go Cybertruck just because somebody finally listened to my advice as a kid.
Did
Somebody, yeah, they stole my drawings as a kid. All those cars,
explosion.
yeah. I'm like, they copied my drawings. What the heck? and it works, and people are paying
Nice.
money for it. Number 9, this is for your kids. Ivy League school or entrepreneurs?
I would leave the decision up to them, but I would have a very in-depth conversation of what the point is for each one of those and let them make that decision.
It's good. And that's a whole nother podcast already. Just the discussion
Oh
of
yeah,
Ivy League
it could be
schools.
a spaces, it could be a podcast, it could be a
Yeah.
live stream. Got lots of stuff going.
Last and final question, and the plane is coming in for the landing. Number 10. What is your desire for the next generation?
That they have the tools to be able to thrive in life. No matter no matter what the situation, that they have the emotional, mental, physical ability to show up for the challenge and to be able to work through it together. I think that's probably the most important thing. If we think about like what's carried people throughout time, there was physical attributes, there was mental attributes, maybe emotional at points, and to be able to have a focus and understanding of themselves to then be able to translate that into almost like their own handbook of how to navigate life. That's something that I'd like to see fathers step up and work on giving their kids, which all starts with dads just, putting more time into themselves and becoming better, showing up for their kids. You can learn all you want, but if you don't stand there and practice it in real life, your kids are never going to learn. You can give them 1,000 speeches, but it's never going to be as powerful or profound or make as much of an impression as when you're showing up daily and you're doing those things. When you're doing those workouts and you're speaking to your wife in the way that you should be with respect and you guys are treating each other properly, that's really what it is. And I really hope that I and other dads can make enough of an impression on the fathers that are around now, the dads, to make them into dads, that they can give those things over to their kids so their kids will be able to get through no matter what this next generation has as a challenge. Because the way the world's going right now, they're going to need a lot of help. So, time to step up now and start doing that. It's the only way that it's going to be able to pull through.
Well, I'll agree that you've definitely made an impression on me. And so I am grateful. I appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you very much for your time. I think everything we talked about, I think time is probably the one commodity that you can't put a price tag on it. And so I appreciate you giving me your time, to our audience, to giving them your time. And so I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this. Anything in the future that we can collaborate, I'm always open. I would love to. I'd be honored to. Just even if it's just for a few minutes, I would love to. So, Jonathan,
Likewise,
if anybody wants to follow him, Tala, I'm gonna let her. I put it up there. Tala, that's his user handle, the Evolved Dad. That's on social media on X, Twitter. Also, he has his own podcast, which is on Spotify. I believe it's under. Let's just put it up there. The Evolved Dad Shortcast, as well as connecting with him on his website, which is theevolveddad.com. This is his connect portion. And man, thank you very much, Jonathan. We appreciate you, brother. And I'm gonna end it. After we end officially, if you don't mind hanging out in the green room for a second, I just want to do my final goodbyes.
happy
Appreciate you, brother. Family, if you are enjoying this, make sure you click the follow button, repost this, all that good stuff. The reason why I do these podcasts, and I share this multiple times tonight, is that I just want to learn and I want to be able to get in as many conversations as possible. I'm a firm believer of an open platform like how we are on Twitter, on X, but also for those of you that are going to be hearing later on Spotify, if you're on other social platforms, live on the YouTube, to my Twitch family, thank you. I see you. Uh, I don't typically reply to comments within the stream just because I want to honor our guest, but if it is feasible, I'll address it. But thank you to all of the X family and also the people that are in replay. If you stayed with us this long, man, I am grateful and I thank you very much for that. Love you guys. Just as a reminder, today's podcast was brought to you by 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions LLC. If you want more information, go to my website, therealglo.com. Link is all in my profiles. Click on sponsors, partners, and all the good stuff. Do me a favor. If you really enjoy this, make sure you follow the Evolve Dad. He's tagged. And don't forget, this Wednesday, I've got a very special guest, the founder of Two Girls Garage. She had a TV show. She's here on X, but also on Instagram. I'll be sharing a graphic as soon as we're done with this podcast. Family, as I always say, thank you so much for hanging out. For those of you that tapped on your screen, for those of you on Twitter, X, thank you. We love you guys. Thank you for flexing your fingers. Thank you for showing off your beautiful biceps on your little fingers for tapping the hearts, and appreciate you guys. On behalf of my family and Jonathan's family, we thank you for inviting us into your living room, into your vehicles, wherever you're listening or watching. As I always say, thank you for your time, your hearts, all that good stuff. And most importantly, thank you for your time. And look forward to seeing you, hearing you on the next one. Love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho, aloha, and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chew.